Okay, so let's begin our new video on spreading awareness about the uses of cracked application and how it can make your device vulnerable and why should we avoid using the cracked applications that we usually use to bypass or temper the licensing or activation requirements. Okay, so that is a specific theme of this video. We need to make sure that we use the genuine applications only so that we are not under attack by an attacker or a hacker that can disrupt our systems and gather our data. All right. But before beginning, I want to specifically mention that this video is for educational purposes only. What? This video is made for educational purposes only. And we don't promote any type of piracy or other stuff. So this is the disclaimer of our video. So without wasting a single second, let's begin. So what is a cracked application or a cracked software? A cracked software refers to the applications, a set of applications specifically, that uses the DRM system or the licensing systems or the activation systems to ensure that the user pays or buys a specific feature or other types of stuff to the application there. It is called as subscription or other things that we use. But here, when we investigate a software like Adobe, Adobe is not a free software, is it? No. Adobe Photoshop as we can see that this is an application that is used for photo editing, and you can see in the website subtitles that it has a free trial and it is not a free app. So in cracking, software cracking or reverse engineering a software, a specific hacker exactly uses the app and modifies its code that causes the app to allow the unauthenticated user that can use the app without paying any subscription fees. There are many sites for that. I'm not going to mention sites here because we don't promote piracy. Piracy is a very big crime. Okay, so in this video, I'm gonna be showing you a crack that will literally disrupts your system's memory integration and other important stuff that can cause your device to be a tin foil or a metal can that is operating fine, but it has no security, which is a big issue. For this purpose, I have downloaded the hypervisor crack by Kitty. Y'all have heard of his name, I guess. He is a cracker who cracks game applications. In here, I have downloaded a demo version of the crack, specifically Resident Evil Requiem Hypervisor version 2 by Kitty. We can clearly see that there are some DLL files here and old client loader and the hyper-HV DLL. So how does this crack works? This crack specifically bypasses the de novo DRM, the infamous DRM that is specifically used by big game companies like Capcom and Ubisoft and other companies like Zynga and other big companies like EA. So to bypass this DRM, the attacker has reverse engineered the de novo DRM's logged initiative target, that is Hyper-V. So the de novo uses the Hyper-V to investigate the app's process and verifies and puts the protection there, which is really hard to bypass. But this hacker has bypassed it. So if we are to check if this crack is less harmful or it is critically harmful or it can disrupt your PC completely, let's see that, shall we? So let's extract a DLL file. To extract a DLL file, we will not be using any fancy tools here, although I could use some fancy tools here, but I will not. Since it is a beginner friendly video, I will be using this website that extracts the DLLs specifically. So when I select the DLL up here, I'm gonna be selecting the hyper-hv.dll extension file, which is an application extension that is required to run this exploited crack. When we open it, we can clearly see that it has some interesting files like .data, .edata, .pdata, and .rdata, and .rlog. In here, we can also see a text file, which is interesting, and also a certificate file and an init file. Let's view this. text file. As you can see that this text file view of this DLL's contents is specifically encrypted to a certain extent, which makes it unreadable to humans until we scroll down and find some human readable text here. Yeah. Now, after all these gibberish writings, we have found some text that we can infer here. What we can see is this this common DLL file is using the guest mode 32-bit, and there is a error functionality here. The error unknown value for CS cannot be determined in WW64, which is the 64-bit system architecture. And here we can also see that there is a specific type of thing here called as or known as disassembler show instructions in VMX non-root. All right. You are at invalid Zionist version. All right, let's go. It seems to be a mechanism here. It is a mechanism here that specifically bypasses that de novo DRM check. We can clearly see there is a dirty login initializer here. Let's see further. All right. It has an interesting text here which says if allocated create identity testable error and to allocate memory for the testable. All right, seems like it's that is there. All right. And it has specifically stated that your person doesn't support mode-based execution (MBC), which is a feature needed for this exploit to work. All right. From here, they have also clarified that the Kaby Lake, aka the seventh generation Intel processors onwards, have that function. All right. And it requires virtualization, as we can see. Virtualization on all codes. All right. This is another thing. This is quite interesting. So I have downloaded the extracted DLL file before this stream started. Yeah. Let's try to view the data file that is located in the hyper-SB data. Can we read it here? So, no. we can't read it. Okay, there is no interesting thing in here. Let's see what the second type of thing with this code. But anyway, all right, there is a cache. It has a function calling which states the hypervisor-level broadcast message uh, change bitmaps. Yeah, so we can see that it is some function that can alter your specific default systematic workflow. It is right into the physical memory, right? And it relies on the hypervisor utility or the Hyper-V utility present in the Windows systems, which is used to deploy virtual machines and other stuff like that. Right. This is quite interesting. Let's view the relog file. We will view the rlog file. See. All right. Does it have anything that you can read? No. Let's see the data file. R, R data file. That's it. We, we could view something that is needed. Let me turn up the volume so that y'all can hear me. I see there is no specific file type that can review because if it has any Hyper-V region. Interesting. There is a at the function here which uses the hyper-debug utility. All right. I have seen some stuff here and let's elaborate it a little bit further so that you can understand how this works. So in this crack or the crack exploit folder, we can specifically see that it uses the Hyper-V utility of the Windows operating system, and it also does some shady things to your BIOS. As you can see, it specifically disables the EFI guard, which is required for your computer safety specifically. And this safety feature ensures that your computer is perfectly fine and has no malware. Um, to elaborate further on this, I will be viewing the Windows Defender app, now uh, stated as the Windows Security app. All right. When you go to the device security, you can specifically see that there is a feature called core isolation. Core isolation feature, it helps your device to stay protected from the kernel structure. When we see it, you can see that the memory integrity is turned on. What will the hypervisor crack do? The hypervisor crack will disable your memory integrity and local security or authority protection, and it will also disable the Microsoft vulnerable driver blocklist feature. These settings here are really important. Firstly, this here is the most important thing because it prevents the attacks from inserting malicious code into the high security process. Uh, what do we mean by that? Let's go to the task manager. You can see that there is some process here. You can see it perfectly. And there are the PIDs, the process ID numbers. You can see that the high privileged services right there, like Windows Update, the SBC host, and the Lenovo driver management and others. So these are the processes. And if the hypervisor exploit, it will specifically target this, your anti-kernel system process. We can specifically see that it is located in the system 32 folder of the Windows OS. All right. Let's move on to the next explanation. This is, let me see. Right. Let's extract another DLL file. edit.dll. This is an executable DLL here that handles the execution. When we open it, you can clearly see that it has data, P data, R data, and the text data. That is there's the text. Let's download it as a zip file. File created. Save. Let's save it here. All right. Let's go to the download folder. Read it. Extract. You read. with some episode. Please code is launching. It's open anyway. Let's see what can we with. Right. It has some encrypted, but as expected. Let's see if we can find out some human readable things here. You might have a question that, hey Mohammed, why are you explaining this in details? Because a lot of users lose millions just because of piracy. They they get hacked, their data is sold on the dark web, which is not a good thing. Piracy might seem like a very helpful thing to the hour, but no. Piracy causes harm to the developers and people like y'all that are working hard. All right, enough yapping. Let's go to the exploits, other stuff. Yeah, all right. Skitty, all right. We can also see that it have it has a cold client thing here, which specifically simulates the Steam client overview here to bypass the Steam DRM as well. That is applied. You can see that here is a shady application which can specifically disrupt your entire computer safety features, which is essential to make sure you are safe during using your computer. And a hacker is not controlling it. Let's see. We won't be running this anywhere here. Let's see. So as you can see that it is blocked here due to security. We can unblock it. But doing so won't cause anything here. So we can specifically do it here. And now let's try to open it to VS Code like a beginner does. As expected, VS Code can't view it, but interesting. Sorry for that. There is a specific website I here. Hmm. As we can see that this honey measure of a exploit specifically requires the execution label as an invoker, and it doesn't access the UI. It executes itself in the background. So that's it for this exploit. I am going to see what this exploit is. What is hypervisor? Exploit. Specifically, breaks your kernel and runs it and at a different ring value. That specifically disturbs your security system. Okay. If we can specifically see that the hypervisor attacks can do privilege escalation as as seen in this CV 2024 38080. In this CV, they specifically stated how a Hyper-V evaluation or elevation of privilege vulnerability puts virtual machines at risk. As we know that Windows Hyper-V is required to run many virtualization environments. It is used by thousands of personnels. So think of yourself as the victim here, and the hacker is obviously the attacker. The hacker will always try to manipulate the victim into clicking on a suspicious link or making them download the spreads, which can literally rewrite the kernel's security procedures and other stuff, and the EFI stuff also. It will literally disable EFI guard. It will do privilege escalation in order to do this stuff to you and eventually gathering data, processing data. Your data is not specifically yours if you run these bragged stuff or like this hypervisor brag. All right, let's go for how an hypervisor exploit works. The hypervisor exploit specifically works in the Hyper-V communication system, which is used to communicate between different hosts. And the attacker can execute codes on your system. Right. Any compromised guest from your PC can cause the entire server to fail, or the entire server data will get compromised. And it can specifically do another thing. It acts as the end user, the authority level of the system. So I think I have explained a lot about this specific hypervisor plan that y'all are using to get access to new triple attacks and don't know what it can do to your system. All right, guys, stay safe, stay secure, and always follow the zero trust policy. This zero trust policies is essential to ensure that y'all are safe.